Alright, now in this video, I'm going to respond to a video that I shared in the community section. And I'm going to also respond to news and different reports that have been made recently.
Women's MMA is one of the strangest things in combat sports.
Now, of all fighters that you could find shadow boxing, why choose a long retired chick who was horrible with her hands compared to almost every other female fighter? You know, right away, this video shows bias, unfair bias. Okay? You want to use Ronda Rousey as what? Excuse me, Ronda Rousey throwing hands, shadow boxing. You want to use her as the standard? Okay? So, you know, the person who made this video tries to come across as being fair. No. Your bias shows. It's pretty obvious.
On one hand, the UFC pushes it hard, through main events, title shots, hype packages, the whole deal. But on the other hand, the level of competition, the technique, the athleticism, the power, it's nowhere near the men's divisions. And that's not to be misogynistic or to hate on women, but it's just the reality of how sports develop, how biology works, and how demographics shape talent. Today, we're breaking down exactly why women's MMA lags behind men's.
Now, I wouldn't say it's nowhere near the men's. I wouldn't say that. It's just not the same. It's clearly behind. Men have more speed, have more power, and most importantly, they're more aggressive.
MMA, why the skill gaps are so wide, why the divisions are so shallow, and why it's not the fighter's fault. It's literally the structure of the sport. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Biology. You can't talk about combat sports without talking about physiology. Men and women have different physical baselines. It's not an opinion, it's anatomy, endocrinology, and evolutionary biology. Men have higher muscle mass, higher bone density, higher fast twitch explosiveness, greater VO2 max potential, higher lean mass, naturally higher testosterone, and quicker recovery from explosive movements. Women have...
Come on, man. You're gonna put steroid users in this video? Come on, man. Ronnie Coleman, really? But okay, you know, it's stretches like that make you lose credibility. Come on, man. You know, I get it. You're trying to hammer home a point, but you look desperate when you do things like that.
Higher bone density, higher fast twitch explosiveness, greater VO2 max potential, higher lean mass, naturally higher testosterone, and quicker recovery from explosive movements. Women have different strengths like flexibility, but none of those compensate for the single biggest factor in fighting: power generation. Humans evolved for different reproductive and survival roles, and physical sexual dimorphism reflects that. Combat sports reward strength, speed, power, reaction time, and explosive athleticism.
Now these are valid points that I've talked about several times, and this is what I've always said about the women, that they need to focus on these things. I believe female fighters should focus on strength. Focus on the things that's irrefutably behind the men. Strength is one of them. And I believe with the improvement of strength, you'll automatically improve speed. Speed largely comes from strength. If you got well-developed, you know, pectorials, shoulders, triceps, you're going to be able to throw faster punches. Ultimately, it's the muscles that direct and make these movements possible. If you have weak muscles trying to execute these strikes, you're going to be slower.
The exact traits where men have a massive built-in advantage, which means the absolute ceiling of women's MMA is naturally lower than the men's divisions.
Do you know who Amanda is? Nunez?
Yes.
Okay, the greatest women fighter that ever has lived. But if we got a guy that was from the UFC, bottom of the barrel, like a 2-2 guy, or maybe 0-1 guy, they would have to tell that guy not to go full blast, to go with Amanda and sparring. That's how much the difference is.
Now let's talk about talent pool. This is the part nobody wants to acknowledge, but it's a huge factor. To produce elite fighters, you need massive participation. You need thousands of kids training, you need huge amateur circuits, and you need gyms overflowing with talent. Men's MMA has this. Women's MMA doesn't. If 20,000 men try to become UFC fighters, the top 200 that make it are killers. They're the 0.1% of the 0.1%. They've survived the jungle of competition. If only a few hundred women try to become pro fighters, you don't even have the luxury of filtering for the 0.1%. You're selecting from the 20% of women in the sport who simply stuck around.
Now this is a huge contributor. This is a huge contributor. There simply isn't that many women who want to do this. Simple as that. And the fewer women who are trying to do this, who are trying to be in the sport, you're going to have fewer top level fighters. You're going to have fewer fighters, and the top level fighters, you know, they're going to have limitations also, even the top tier fighters, right? Yeah, there are a lot of dumb things made in this video, but there's also a lot of valid points made in this video as well. I'm gonna try to touch on all of them as best I can.
And that's why striking defense in women's MMA is inconsistent. The jiu-jitsu is a hit or miss. The athleticism varies.
Striking defense, that's a huge issue. I complain about this all the time. I can't sit here and lie. I'm always jumping on these girls' cases for not moving their head, for eating shots, for really accepting shots. A lot of these chicks, they look at it as a big task to move their heads. They really do. So when a lot of punches are coming to their face, I believe a lot of them, they know they're going to get hit, and they don't even try to move their heads. They don't even try. They just figure, oh, this shot's about to land. I'll just take it.
Consistent. The jiu-jitsu is a hit or miss. The athleticism varies massively. You get bizarre matchups and mismatches. The elite tiers have huge gaps. You're watching a sport without a wide base.
Now, that was another cheap shot right there. I'm going to call these cheap shots. You gonna compare Kayla Harrison, her body, to Ketlin Vieira? Kayla, who really is coming from 155 pounds, and who we know has dabbled in the hot sauce, compared to Ketlin, one of the flatter fighters as far as muscularity. Okay.
Athleticism varies massively. You get bizarre matchups and mismatches. The elite tiers have huge gaps. You're watching a sport without a wide base. Men grow up fighting. Not all men, but enough to make a difference. They get in school.
I pointed that out before. Not just me, other people pointed out the wide gaps in a lot of these fights. That's also a valid point. A lot of people have talked about this, how a lot of times there are mismatches. A lot of them are mismatches.
Men grow up fighting. Not all men, but enough to make a difference. They get in schoolyard fights, roughhousing, contact sports, wrestling programs, football, rugby, boxing gyms, jiu-jitsu academies, Muay Thai gyms. Boys get reps in early. Girls don't. Girls grow up being shunned away from combat sports.
Now let me say, there are a lot of men who don't grow up like this. And I was surprised when I found this out. I'm from the black community here in the United States. And at one point in my life when I was growing up, my mother tried to move us out to some white suburbs. And when I was out there, man, I ran into a lot of white dudes who said they never had a fight in their life. And I'm thinking, yeah, you're kidding, right? But no. They were like 16, 17, and they were straight up and down. I've never had a fight in my life. I even ran into some 20-year-old white guys. Never had a fight in their life. So just to correct them a little bit on that, there's a number, really whole communities and demographics of men who did not grow up fighting. Not all men grow up fighting.
That cultural shaping matters. By the time boys and girls reach adulthood, the average male already has years of informal or formal
Getting in fights was so common where I'm from that we would have referees. We would have referees. We would sort of have rounds. If the fight got sloppy, we would break them up, stand them back up, and let them start over. I'm dead serious. And they were scheduled. Who's fighting after school? Who's fighting after school today? Oh, such and such is going to fight after school. Oh, word? Okay. I mean, we treated school as if it was like the UFC. Fighting was extremely common where I'm from and where I grew up. A lot of schools are the exact opposite, man. You have a scrap here and there, but a huge percentage of those guys do not grow up fighting.
Physical combat exposure. Most women enter MMA with zero background in physical conflict, so men began MMA with a head start, not just physically, but psychologically. Most male fighters start training young. Some start at 10, some at 15, some at 18. The great ones often start as soon as they can crawl. But female fighters often start in their 20s, some in their late 20s.
Now, we talked about, I made a whole video about this. About how most of the top female fighters, they started fighting at a very young age. Valentina Shevchenko, I believe she was like 5 years old. Rose Namajunas, same. I think she's about 5 years old. An exception was maybe Joanna. She started kind of late. She was naturally gifted. But when you go down the line and you look, most of the top fighters, they started very young. I think it's more important for the females to start at a young age than it is for the men. Men, for the most part, can pick up combat a little later in life and still be one of the best. But the women, they have to start early. They got to start developing their muscles, their reflexes, and all that stuff at a very young age. Like I said before, the women need to outperform the men. If it's typical for the men to train for an hour, the women need to go in and train for 2 hours. Whatever the men do, I think the women should do more. I mentioned before, there is a African tribe in Africa called the Dahomey tribe, and they actually had an all-female military sect. They actually did, and that female army actually caused a lot of problems, I think, for the Portuguese. I think it was Portuguese or the Spaniards. It's one of them. And they were getting lit up by this group of women. And what those women, or what the men did, is they would force the women to train harder than the men. They put the women through more vigorous preparation and training because of men's natural and biological head start.
Because they found MMA through fitness classes. It's incredibly difficult to become world class if you didn't start early. Technique is a long-term investment. Neuromuscular adaptation, reflex development, wrestling timing, these things don't appear in adulthood. It's only now that girls wrestling is gaining traction in the United States. A later entry equals lower ceiling.
I don't really follow wrestling like that. But look at that. Look at that. If this is true, and this is Ohio, ironically, the state that I live in, look at that huge jump, man. between 2017 and 2022, 2021-22. That's a huge jump. So clearly, there's a shift as far as wrestling is concerned. As we all know, a lot of wrestlers go on to become MMA fighters.
Gaining traction in the United States. A later entry equals lower ceilings. That's how skill acquisition works in any sport. And of course, outliers exist who started training late, like Francis Ngannou, but it's always better to start earlier. Another major issue: depth. You can't have elite champions without elite contenders, and women's MMA doesn't have the numbers. The UFC has 8 men's divisions and 3 women's divisions. The men's divisions are stacked.
This is something else that Miesha Tate pointed out. I think it was recently. Some of you may have seen that interview. Miesha Tate pointed out how, there's only 3 female divisions. So it's harder for them to make their mark in the sport, with so few divisions. If they had an equal number of divisions as the men, you would hear about more top tier female fighters and stuff like that. So they're up against it. It's not only a biological disadvantage, you have a numerical disadvantage for the females.
The UFC has over 100 lightweight monsters who fit all divisions and 3 women champions without elite contenders. And women's MMA doesn't have.
Let's take a break real quick. Maycee Barber. Maycee Barber has not wasted any time. She done came out her face talking about a title shot. This is why I cannot stand Maycee Barber. I cannot. She is so annoying to me. I don't understand how people are fanatics and got the pom-poms out for this chick, man. Listen to this. Wait a minute.
We'll just have to see who's available and what makes sense as far as matchup-wise.
Do you have a preference?
I want the belt, so you know what I want, and whoever's in the way is going to get taken out.
Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference other than I want to take out whoever's in the way of getting the belt. And also, you guys have already known I've been calling for my rematch for a while against Alexa Grasso. So, would love to take that one out. And then, if not, then I just want a title shot.
No, Maycee. No. Listen, Maycee, I wish that you were truly on point. The only thing she got going for her is her win streak. But she is not committed. She don't have the discipline. If you ask me, she don't have the discipline to be no champion. She pulls out too much. She is too inconsistent. And she's just not, skill-wise, you're not that chick. Your little bolo punches, your windmill overhead. But come on, man. You need a complete boxing arsenal. Look at the champion. Look at the fighter who beat the champion. Both Valentina and Alexa Grasso has above average boxing. Do they or do they not? That's not you, Maycee. It's not you. You're not as complete as these other girls. Just like Aaron pointed out, you're not quite at that level. I don't want to see no Maycee Barber holding the belt. I think that will be a bad look on the division as a whole if Maycee Barber becomes the standard of that division, especially after a champion like Valentina Shevchenko. Could you imagine you go from Shevchenko being the best in the division to Maycee Barber? Maycee shadow boxing Barber? No.
The numbers. The UFC has 8 men's divisions and 3 women's divisions. The men's divisions are stacked. The UFC has over 100 lightweight monsters who could all maul each other in any given weekend. Bantamweight is absurd. Welterweight is a war zone. But women's featherweight doesn't exist. Strawweight is improving. Flyweight has a few killers.
Strawweight is improving? Now, this is the part of the video where this dude, you gotta be called out. Strawweight is improving? What are you talking about? Strawweight was the first division to be at the forefront, to be in the spotlight after the bantamweight division fell. It was like and really, they coincided. If y'all remember, Ronda Rousey would headline, and she would have her sidekick champion on that card as well, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. They would hook up. They would do joint interviews. I'm talking about Ronda Rousey and Joanna. Joanna had major buzz, and the strawweight division was getting a lot of attention during that time. What do you mean strawweight is improving? Goofy? You know what you talking about.
Improving. Welterweight is a war zone. But women's featherweight doesn't exist. Strawweight is improving. Flyweight has a few killers.
Flyweight has a few killers. Now, I'm not going to refer to any of these women as killers. If I ever do, they're going to be a real killer. They're going to be head and shoulders above the competition. I think it's fair to say that Shevchenko is on that level. You know, it's fair, even though, you know, there's some fighters who give her a run for her money. She has established herself as above average. And when I say average, I mean the average female fighter in her division or any division. She's more complete. She's far more consistent. She's the closest thing to the perfect fighter as you could possibly get. Many of you might remember back when Amanda Nunes was still active, and Amanda Nunes was the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. I was making the argument that it was actually Shevchenko who was the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. Even when Nunes was being cheerleaded and promoted as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, I was like, no. Even when Shevchenko did not have the belt. I was saying this when she was a contender at bantamweight. Like, she is the best pound-for-pound fighter, period. Okay, so there are a number of women who are clearly above average, but then you have those same group of women who are not on the level of a Shevchenko. Like you hear all the time, there are levels to this.
Kayla Harrison is making a name for bantamweight, but in other words, the average woman.
Kayla's making a name for bantam. And let's go back to flyweight. Flyweight got a few killers. Flyweight has been the most stacked and competitive division for a nice little while now. They have definitely made their mark as a division. It has definitely made its mark. It's the first division at 115, where the 115 champion fought the 125-pound champion. The only other champ fight, of course, was Amanda Nunes against Cyborg, who was a champion of a really non-existent division. So it wasn't really a legit or genuine champ fight, that Cyborg against Nunes. This one was, and in a sense, this was the first legitimate female champ fight. It involved the flyweight champion. Stop playing. Again, and also, the flyweight is currently the most established division because of Shevchenko. Having a champion like this forces everybody else to raise their game, to step their game up. Okay? And I believe that's a huge reason why the girls at 125 are a little more serious, determined. They understand that they're going to have to be as close to Shevchenko level as possible to take her out. Grasso had the hands. She had the hands to compete with Valentina and somewhat the wrestling and grappling, but she lacked in the wrestling and grappling as well. What I'm giving Grasso credit for as far as wrestling and grappling is her ability to not get finished. Shevchenko has never been able to finish Grasso, despite the fact of having Grasso on the ground, on the mat, multiple times. She even had Grasso in a crucifix, and Grasso got out of it. If I'm not mistaken, Grasso is the first and only female to get out of a fully executed crucifix against Valentina Shevchenko. But yet, she still lost because of the gap as far as wrestling and grappling.
Killers. Kayla Harrison is making a name for bantamweight, but in other words, the average women's MMA division is the equivalent of
making a name for bantamweight. Bantamweight has already been at the top of the mountain. Okay, he's talking crazy. You make it sound like, bantamweight has never been in the spotlight. What are you talking about?
Regional promotion on the men's side. And that's the math. It's not the fighter's fault. Women's bantamweight only has 32 fighters. That's less than a third compared to men's lightweight. The most populated women's division, women's strawweight, has roughly the same amount of fighters as the least populated men's division, men's heavyweight. Here's something most people notice but don't understand. Women's fights often look unstructured. But why? Because the technique gaps are enormous. If you're the best woman in your gym, and the second best woman is 40 pounds lighter than you and training for cardio, and the men you train with go easy, you aren't getting competition level rounds. That's why you see square stances, chin up striking, looping punches, zero head movement, slow transitions, and underdeveloped wrestling. The training quality just can't match.
These are all valid points. These are valid points. There are a lot of errors made by the women. There are a lot. And all of this makes it more difficult to get predictions correct also. You know what I'm saying? So, it's kind of difficult predicting fights with WMMA. Some on their off nights, it seemed like they're really off. On those nights where they're not quite at their best, sometimes it looked like a whole different fighter in there. It's like, wait a minute, I thought she knew how to box. It's like, whoa, I thought she had a jab. You know what I mean? So, clearly, that is still in development as well. The consistency is not quite where it should be.
You aren't getting competition level rounds. That's why you see square stances, chin up striking, looping punches, zero head movement, slow transitions, and underdeveloped wrestling. The training quality just can't match the men's scene.
And that's why when a woman comes through with above average boxing, she is able to really spank a lot of her competition, the majority of her competition, because most of these women, they don't have good striking defense, don't have good head movement and all of that, and they're not used to having to deal with top level boxing.
Even at the elite level, the athletic gap is massive. The top tier male fighters are explosively fast, massively powerful, gifted with insane balance, and capable of generating knockout power from weird positions. The top tier female fighters are well conditioned, technical and tough, determined, but their raw athleticism just isn't comparable. You can't replicate punching power, grip strength, squeezing force, speed, hip drive, and explosiveness. These are heavily...
Look. Stop comparing them to men. That's part of your problem. Why is it always necessary to compare them to the men? This is why I've always, I've never had a problem with WMMA. Before the fight even starts, I understand and accept they're not going to be as fast as the men. They're not going to be as explosive. They're not going to be as strong. The physical strength is not going to be there. That way, when I actually see these slower punches with less power, I'm not disappointed like a lot of these guys are. They set themselves up to be disappointed.
Sex-dependent traits. That's why women's fights go to decision so often. They literally cannot generate the same fight-ending power.
Yes. That was another thing that I suggested that needs improved. Their power. The power. They gotta push-ups, bench press. Those types of exercises will improve your power. It will, and your biceps. You gotta work your biceps. Push-ups, pull-ups. That movement, and these trainers need to do a better job of making their fighters focus on these types of strength and strength training.
Grappling exposes the shallow talent pool more than anything else. There are maybe 10 women in the UFC who can wrestle at an elite level. Maybe, being generous. In the men's divisions, every top 30 fighter is a competent grappler. Some are Olympic level. That's why it's more common to see bizarre sequences in women's MMA. Fighters falling off the back.
Why did Jillian do that? She elbowed her right in her butthole. And she knows she aimed for her opponent's butthole. Don't do that again. Don't do that again, Jillian. Speaking of Jillian, she has a fight coming up. I think I talked about it, but just in case I haven't, I'm taking Jillian over Amanda Lemos. But she better be careful. Lemos has knockout power. She's one of the few women who possess knockout power. Where's that post? And these are the upcoming fights. What is it? I think it's this weekend. Or tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? When is this? I don't even know when this is. UFC Vegas. Yeah, Lemos struggles too much with wrestlers and grapplers for my comfort. It's just, I don't trust her. Now, on the feet, if this is a striking contest, that is a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. I would even blindfold Amanda Lemos and still trust that she would whoop Jillian in a striking contest. What is this? God, here we go. Wikipedia bum. Get out of here. Okay, what is this? But what is this? Jeez. But Jillian's, her striking, what's crazy? Every now and then, Jillian looks sort of competitive. Every now and then, when she's on her feet. And that's exactly what we're talking about. The inconsistency, the gaps. You see a lot of crazy stuff with the women. You be watching a chick who's been a poor striker her whole career, and then one day suddenly she's throwing good shots. It's like, wait, whoa, where'd this come from? Like, oh, okay. Okay, so it is tomorrow night. These fights are going down tomorrow night. I won't say a lot. There's some decent fights on here. As far as the females, as you saw, we got Jillian Robertson against Amanda Lemos, I'm rolling with Jillian. But she can get stopped. She can get knocked out or submitted. Lemos can still submit you, Jillian. I know she's going to be in a rush to get Lemos down, but don't think that you're safe. Do not think that you're safe. Lemos can submit you. She can submit you, and she's physically strong. Okay, you might be challenged. So even though I'm taking Robertson, I'm not, it's not no guarantee that she'll win this fight. There's no way. This could very well be a very competitive, and it might be. Most likely it'll be competitive, but I can see Jillian, getting lucky, slapping on a submission, and not taking any damage. I can see that happening as well. We'll see. You also got Melissa Croden against Luana Santos. Now, what's funny about that fight is Luana Santos is training with Jacqueline Cavalcante. Jacqueline is the only fighter to have defeated Melissa Croden. Isn't that right? Let me double check. Let me make sure. Oh, no, she's not the only one. She's not the only one. Melissa Scare Croden. She also lost back in 2021 to Evelyn Martins. Lost by split decision. So yeah, she's training with Jacqueline Cavalcante. But come on, Santos. You know full well you cannot duplicate Cavalcante's hands. I don't care if she lives with Cavalcante. Y'all can move in together and practice striking all day. Luana Santos is not going to be able to, throw hands like Cavalcante. That said, I don't count Santos out. I don't count her out. They all have a chance for the most part. But I just don't see the striking from Santos. And Croden got pretty good takedown defense, pretty good ability to get back to her feet. I'm rolling with Croden in that fight. I expect her to win via striking. She should be able to outstrike Santos. But Santos is going to be shooting for takedown after takedown after takedown. She better hope she lands something and get lucky. And also Jamie Lynn Horth against Teresa Bleda. Not too excited about that, but I will watch. And I'm going to take Horth in that fight. I'm going to roll with Horth in that fight. Okay, so Jillian Robertson, I'm taking Jillian. Take Croden over Santos. And I'm taking Jamie Lynn Horth over Teresa Bleda. Let's get back to his little documentary.
Bizarre sequences in women's MMA. Fighters falling off the back, losing mount instantly, failing on basic armbar defense, not using underhooks, giving up inside space. Grappling amplifies the gap between developed and undeveloped scenes. Another issue is mileage. Male fighters often enter the UFC with 20 plus amateur fights, decades of training, and deep experience in wrestling or striking disciplines.
Have 25, 26 professional fights, but in amateur career I have almost 300, 200 fights.
300 amateur?
Yeah.
Women enter with 2 to 5 years of training, low-level amateur experience, and mostly MMA-only backgrounds. Nico Montano won the women's UFC flyweight championship going in with a record of 3-2. She only had 5 fights. This creates giant gaps in timing, composure, and fight IQ. So why does women's MMA lag behind? It's simple. It's a young sport with a tiny talent pool, weaker feeder systems, late start athletes, and massive biological performance differences. It's the structure, it's the demographics, it's the biology, and it's the developmental timeline. Now that we've covered what women's MMA lags behind, biologically, structurally...
I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about that. Talking about, the business side of things. But actually, some of this... Yeah, I do want to... Let's skip to this part. This is kind of funny.
The UFC, knowingly or not, profits from that. Because when fighters post modeling...
Wait. Is it the optics?
Now we're getting to the real backbone of it, public image. It looks good for the UFC to promote women's MMA. It looks progressive, it looks modern, and it looks inclusive. It helps position the UFC as the sport where men and women compete under the same brand. That image has powerful cultural and corporate advantages. Women's MMA gets a degree of protection from criticism in ways male fighters never would, because the UFC doesn't want the optics of being harsh on women. This PR value helps the UFC with brand partnerships, government outreach, contract deal optics, and mainstream sport credibility. In other words, the UFC needs women's MMA as part of its image. Whether the divisions are shallow or inconsistent doesn't matter. The UFC benefits from looking like a unified co-ed combat platform. Women's MMA didn't rise organically. It was built on one fighter, Ronda Rousey. Ronda was a once-in-a-century promotional superstar. She brought trash talk, judo finishes, fast submissions, movie roles, and mainstream fame. She was the pay-per-view queen, and she printed money, and the UFC went all in behind her. The only problem was Ronda was a unicorn, because when she lost, the division collapsed into chaos. Champions rotated like a merry-go-round. Skill gaps were everywhere. No one could maintain dominance. But the UFC learned something important. If even one...
That's not necessary. I don't know why so many people look at that as automatically a bad thing. The fact that you don't have a dominant champion. All that means is that you're going to have a lot of fights over the belt. Now, don't get me wrong. It's always beneficial to have a dominant champion. You do need a dominant champion to arise from time to time. You don't want it to always permanently be, title change hands and they don't make any title defenses, or maybe they make one title defense, because dominant champions bring attention to the sport, to the division. But you're going to have times where the belt is changing hands, and there are a lot of exciting fights during that time. A lot of fights that a lot of people have been wanting to see. If they were to make Natalia Silva against Manon Fiore, are you kidding? Several fights that I can name that I'd be looking forward to. I don't have much of a problem. Well, let me say I don't automatically look at it as a bad thing just because there's no fighter holding on to the belt for 5 fights, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights.
Women becomes a superstar, it justifies the entire existence of women's MMA and the...
Wait a minute. Because I want to share people's feedback also. Official VOR said, "This is ridiculous considering we got masterful fighters like Vanessa Demopoulos and Jamie Lynn Horth out there literally killers." Okay, you're trolling. I want to focus on the fighters who are noteworthy. Just put it like that. There are a lot of fighters, female fighters, who probably shouldn't be in the UFC.
Important. If even one woman becomes a superstar, it justifies the entire existence of women's MMA in the eyes of the business. And because of that possibility, the next Rousey dream, women's MMA isn't going anywhere.
Hello, I like money.
Now we're going to talk about something the UFC will never admit publicly, but everyone knows it's true. Female fighters draw on a certain type of fan, not the martial arts purist, not the technical analyst. I'm talking about the perverts. There's a non-trivial percentage of women's MMA viewership that has nothing to do with the technique, skill...
That's funny. That is funny. I think this is a group. Was it Facebook or something? MMA Babes, and it has 202,000 weekly visitors. Okay. Well, look, I'm sure there are many women who enjoy looking at men, right? But I get it. There is a difference.
Athleticism or rankings. It's based on attraction. It's based on sexualization.
Wait, now
and
what
the
now?
technique
Let's back this up.
knows it's true. Female fighters draw on a certain type of fan, not the martial arts purist, not the technical analyst. I'm talking about the perverts. There's a non-trivial percentage of
They're not perverts. Men who like to look at attractive women are not perverts. Stop it.
MMA viewership that has nothing to do with the technique, skill, athleticism, or rankings. It's based on attraction. It's based on sexualization. And the UFC, knowingly or not, profits from that. Because when fighters post modeling photos, weighing glam shots, behind-the-scenes content, OnlyFans promotions, and fitness photos, it all feeds into engagement. Engagement feeds into algorithms, and algorithms feed into UFC marketing. The same way ring girls exist, and the same
UFC appreciates these thirst trap posts by these fighters.
my social media amplifies certain content, sexualization is a real economic factor, and the UFC benefits from it, even if it never says the quiet part out loud. In men's divisions, talent depth means dominance. Quiet part out loud.
Right.
In men's divisions, talent depth means dominance is hard to maintain. You have elite athletes after elite athletes rising through the ranks. But in women's MMA, the lack of depth often creates the illusion of parity, or sudden upsets, because skill gaps are inconsistent. This volatility makes women's MMA look exciting in highlight form. A champion gets upset, a contender gets blitzed. To a casual viewer, this looks like drama. To a hardcore fan, it looks like inconsistency. But to the UFC, it looks like marketable chaos, and chaos sells. A UFC card with only men would give the promotion a certain stereotype. A testosterone festival, a bro-only spectacle, a violent men's club. But throw in 2 or 3 women's fights, and suddenly it looks like a legit mainstream sport. It looks balanced, modern, and inclusive. Women's MMA helps soften the brand. It helps the UFC appear socially responsible. It helps UFC and ESPN pitch themselves as a progressive sporting league, not a niche violent show. Every champion is a marketing vehicle.
Listen.
Every division is a story engine.
Listen,
the more belts you have,
listen. When you crash out like he did, the guy who made this video crashed out. Look at the title. Why Women's MMA Sucks. And in parentheses, and the UFC loves it. In the background, he wrote the word trash. So you crashed out. It's never smart to crash out like that. Why? Because you and I know, everybody knows, that you have found several WMMA fights exciting, and you know it. You know it. Sometimes the women earn fight of the night or performance of the night. Some of these fights are better than some of the men's fights. We've had several cards where the female fights were the best on the cards. Now, with that in mind, look at the thumbnail and read the title. So you lose credibility. You lost credibility because not all of the female fights are trash. This is something I don't get about this current generation. It's a crash out generation. People always go to the extremes. Yeah, you can't call WMMA trash when several fights have you standing up out of your seat. When several fights have you saying, ooh, oh. and you know for a fact that it has happened more than once with you, with everybody. What were you? Did you take a nap? Did you fall asleep after Shevchenko knocked out Jessica Eye with that head kick? Would you yawn and reach for your lemonade? I'll be here all day going over the moments in WMMA that are noteworthy. So, yeah, the people with objections to WMMA, be realistic about it. Be realistic about it. WMMA gets a lot of criticism. A lot. Sometimes, and by some content creators, after every single card, they're going to have some criticisms of the women. But at least be realistic. Sometimes the women deliver. I mean, what do you say when there's a fight card and the men are getting decision after decision and the first stoppage of the night is a female fight? That has happened more times than I can remember. Just as far as debates go, and somebody trying to argue a point, that is not a position that a smart person would take. Oh, WMMA is trash. WMMA sucks. But yet, here's this clip of you jumping up out your chair watching a female fight. Say, come on, man. I'm not, with this stream, I'm not pulling out the pom-poms in defense of WMMA. I'm more trying to be realistic. This is the crash out era. People feel like they always need to crash out. Fine. Just know you're going to leave yourself open for objections. You're going to have holes all throughout your argument. Period. Now wait a minute. I want to deal with a comment here. This person keeps leaving these crazy comments. This chick right here. This was on the video where, what was it titled? UFC refuses to secure Natalia Silva's title shot. And that's what it is. That's what it is. Regardless of whether or not you are looking forward to Silva against Namajunas or you agree with it, the fact is Silva could lose her opportunity to fight for the belt. That's the bottom line. They have put yet another roadblock in front of her. And you're seeing a bunch of these types of comments where people clearly don't want Silva to get a title shot. That's what it sounds like to me. A bunch of people who don't want her to be in a title fight against Valentina Shevchenko for whatever weird reason of theirs. But this lady said Valentina can fight whoever she wants in the sequence she wants. Woman, what are you smoking? What brand of crack? What brand of opioids? Meth or heroin are you on? What are you talking about? No, she can't. Fight whoever she wants in the sequence she wants. Look at this. That's her gift from the UFC. Champions have literally fought for the right to be. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? This is all good and well for Silva. If she wins, she'll have a victory over Rose on her resume. The two fighters will meet in the cage when the champion is done resting. How do you know that? If she loses to Rose, the world makes you think she's just gonna get a title shot, you idiot. What do you do? Who makes statements like that? Like, Lord, and you wrote it. You didn't catch yourself making a dumb, false statement like this? Potentially false. The two fighters will meet in the cage when the champion is done resting, healed, and needs a match before she... What? Before she's done resting, healed, and needs a match before she faces Nunes at 135. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You sound crazy. She said, this is all working out as expected. When the champion earns a rest, the fighters behind her fight each other. Grasso pulled out, Rose stepped in. MMA logic doesn't need to be challenged for this one. The fighters must stay active as the champion. Lady, shut up with this goofy babble. Stop leaving these stupid comments on my channel where you just sitting up here lying and making false statements. Champions just don't get to willy-nilly fight whoever they want to fight. What in the world are you talking about? What are you talking about? Just crazy. But this is another example where these people, they don't want Silva to fight Valentina. Now, I know there are a bunch of mentally damaged, brain damaged, retarded, inbred racists out there, and they look at Natalia Silva as a black woman, which she is not. She is not. But she resembles black women so much, they're like, oh, no, she can't fight for the belt. You know, that's when this mentality of these retarded racists start to come into play. Racists are brain damaged, retarded. They are degenerates, and their mentality is degenerate. They will root against whoever is not white, and they will make arguments like this. They will make arguments trying to justify a non-white, and usually black, because that's who racists hate the most, for the most part, try to justify them avoiding and giving an opportunity to a black fighter. Listen, I don't know what y'all's issue is, but I see it, and it's annoying. Keep that away from me. Don't come making these stupid arguments, saying stupid stuff about Valentina can fight whoever she wants. That's her privilege and that's her gift. Always constantly making excuses for Shevchenko to not fight Silva. That makes me think that you see Silva as a threat. You are a Valentina nut hugger. And I know there are a lot of these types of people out here. You are a Shevchenko fanatic, and you look at Silva as a threat, and you don't want Shevchenko to fight Silva. So you're going to get behind any deflection of that fight going down. Again, and that is pathetic. It's pathetic. Okay, so shut up. And matter of fact, I'm going to remove this stupid comment because you're sitting up here lying. Alright? There you go. So yeah, Shevchenko has mentioned some injuries, and that she's going to take some time off to heal. Now, in situations like that, especially with Shevchenko, she's going to be granted the time, and I don't believe they're going to have an interim thing popping off. And it would be expected for Natalia Silva to fight someone else, to fight other fighters. But you got to understand, they were talking about Shevchenko against someone other than Silva. Okay? Let's not get amnesia here. This just happened. Really immediately after, really before the fight even started, before Shevchenko even fought Weili Zhang, people were sitting up here talking about how she should fight Kayla Harrison next. Right? Fight another fighter other than the number one contender. I mean, think about it. Y'all out here cheerleading a non-structure of a division. You're getting behind the number one contender not getting a title shot. This is literally what you have people out here doing. Pulling out the pom-poms over the idea of the number one contender not getting a title shot. That makes you all look bad. Makes you look like a goofy racist. I mean, what do you expect people to do when in cases like that? What's your motivation? If there's no obvious motivation, people are going to chalk it up, oh, you're just racist. That must be what it is, because there ain't no other reason. There ain't no reason to deviate from the number one contender in any division. There ain't no justifiable reason to do that. I wish y'all would stop talking dumb. Stop trying to justify this idea of Silva not fighting for the belt. And really not fighting for the belt next. I do not believe Rose should be in a title eliminator, as I've already said. That if Rose wins the fight, she should have to fight other fighters. She should not automatically get a shot at the title. But if Silva wins, she should get a shot at the title. That this is an eliminator and should be an eliminator, because we don't know. But it should be only an eliminator for Natalia Silva. Like I said before in a different video, I don't want to see Rose. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I would watch Rose against Shevchenko. I would be excited about the fight, but it shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen. Rose has not done enough at this division to get no title shot. Even if she were to defeat Natalia Silva, you haven't done enough. There are other fighters who've done way more than you in this division who deserve that title shot. And like I also mentioned, the Rose magic is gone. It's gone. In my eyes, this girl is played out. She's fat. Okay? She's just disappointed. She's been disappointing too many times for my taste. I don't want to see another Rose run. I don't want to hear her "I'm the best" chants. Okay? I don't want to deal with her pulling out of fights. Okay? This is Shevchenko's, from my recollection, this is Shevchenko's first break. I can't think of any other time where she was like, needed time off or anything like that. But Rose? Yeah. consistency matters when you're talking about the champion. Rose is not consistent enough. And same goes for Macy Barber. I don't see either one of them as being consistent enough to be champions. It's not happening. What else did I had something else that I wanted to point out here before I get up off of here. Yes, Macy Barber has a long win streak. She's going to try to ride that win streak into a title shot. Okay? I believe her team, they know that they're not getting a title shot next. She mentioned it in her interview with Ariel, but she is not getting no title shot next. I mean, seriously, this girl just came off an extremely long layoff. Do you really think she works or would work as a champion? She out here pulling out during the walkouts because of an anxiety attack. She was literally just too nervous to fight that night. Who's to say that won't happen again? Could you imagine if that was a title fight and you're the champion? Talking about I'm nervous? After that happened, the doctor put her on anti-anxiety medication, and she knows it. That girl ain't stable enough to be no flipping champion. Look, if WMMA is going to be respected, you got to start with the champions being real, legit, credible, noteworthy champions. The worst possible look for WMMA is to have a garbage champion. A champion who throws punches, right? like your girl Ronda Rousey. This is a bad look for the champion right here. As far as WMMA. We need to avoid this. And honestly, if given the chance to throw combinations, this Macy Barber might look like this. Hey, let's see some shadow boxing, Macy. It might look like this. No. You keep her away from that belt. Go fight somebody else. You gonna lose. I don't believe she's gonna beat Grasso in no rematch. Grasso had to pull out. She had to pull out for whatever reason. And Barber won her fight. And after her victory, she called out Alexa Grasso again. She's gone on Ariel Helwani and mentioned that rematch again. I think it's a strong possibility that she gets it. And if you notice, she did not move in the rankings. Macy Barber was not moved up or down after her victory over Karine Silva. Okay, that's just what it is. The girl, like, once she's up against a fighter who refuses to be bullied by her, I'm telling you, Macy Barber falls apart. It starts at first it's mental. That's what happened against Grasso. She went in there trying to tee off on Grasso and 8 punches in return. It changed the whole tone of the fight for the entire duration of the fight. It set the tone for the fight. You're not going to bully me. I got faster hands. I'm more accurate than you. You're going to be in trouble during this fight. And I got good takedown defense. Once you refuse to be bullied by Maycee Barber, she falls apart. She falls apart. And you talk about a feisty, resilient opponent. That's Alexa Grasso. Grasso has also lost 2 fights in a row. You already know she's going to be thirsty for a victory. Her and her team going to be very thirsty for a victory. We'll see what happens. But that will, if Maycee gets a title shot against Shevchenko, do you know how embarrassing that of a fight that's going to be for you, Maycee? You're going to have meme after meme. You're going to have gifts of you getting teed off on, picked apart, your head getting snapped back. Let's keep it a buck, man. This is what's going to happen. You know, Shevchenko is another level. Y'all saw how Aaron Blanchfield was sort of getting pieced up by Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez? You out here getting pieced up by Tracy Cortez? And yet she, you know, if Aaron get a title shot, the same thing is going to happen. That girl's defense, she's going to have to do something. She's going to have to change her habits or something if she gets a title shot. I'm talking about Aaron and Maycee Barber. But I just don't see Maycee Barber getting no title shot. I don't see that happening. She's going to have to get through Manon at some point. No, see, and it's funny how fighters don't really bring up Manon. They want to fight the small. Oh, give me Alexa Grasso. That was so Maycee Barber. That was so Maycee Barber. If I can't fight Alexa Grasso, give me a title shot. No. No. If you can't fight Alexa Grasso, why not fight Manon Fiore? Oh, just typical Maycee duck a fighter Barber. Come on, man. Y'all not gonna just and what about Natalia Silva? You know, the fighter who defeated Alexa Grasso? She ain't say nothing about fighting her if she can't fight Alexa Grasso. That was kind of bad. That's a bad look. Here's Barber right here. Like I said, they included her in the pound for pound rankings at number 15, but she didn't move up in the division. She just fought Karine Silva, number 9. Now she's calling for Alexa Grasso. And if she can't get the Grasso fight, you telling me you don't want to fight anybody else? Yeah, she said, oh, anybody is in my way. Well, name them. Name them. Don't say, oh, if I can't get Alexa Grasso, give me my title shot. Stop. Aaron don't want to fight you. I don't think the UFC is going to ever try to force Aaron to fight you. But you got Silva here. You got Manon Fiore here. You don't want that smoke? Let's say they give you a title shot. Let's say you beat Shevchenko and take the belt. But I mean, how many people see that happening? Think she gonna beat Valentina? Then, if she beats Valentina, you think she gonna turn around and defeat Manon Fior? Then turn around, defeat Natalia Silva? Defeat Grasso in the rematch? Hell, Rose Namajunas. I don't think Macy wins that fight. Macy Barber is out of her league up here, in my opinion. And it's the result of the UFC pushing her. Just pushed her into the lion's den. But man, it's going to backfire. If you ask me, it's going to backfire. It's going to backfire, and I just see in Macy's near future embarrassment. Go back and watch her fight against Alexa Grasso. That was kind of embarrassing for Macy Barber. That was like an embarrassing loss. You out here getting pieced up. She's getting pieced up, girl. Alexa Grasso was finding you. Her knuckles was finding your face. Thought you was going to bully Grasso. It ain't happened. And then what? She go in there against Natalia Silva? Man, please. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? That's like a fight it's not even supposed to happen. I believe Barber is out of her league. She don't belong this high in the rankings. She don't. That's why she cried after she beat Karine Silva. Oh my God. Oh, I did it. That was an unimpressive victory that she won by decision. And that was against Karine. I don't throw strikes. I have no offense, Silva. I mean, but we'll see. We'll see. I believe she is too high in the rankings. To an extent, so was Jasmine Jasudavicius. Maybe. I'm going to give her a chance. But this is something else that happens with the women. Sometimes they find themselves in places in the rankings where they shouldn't be. It happened before. And that, who was it? Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I called that out in real time. I made a video. I'm like, man, they got to get Karolina out of here. You got to move her down before she get whooped. And what happened? She started getting whooped so bad, it led to her retirement. Right? I think she's retired. Is she retired? Retired or not, she started looking for a different job. That's when she turned to OnlyFans. She started getting whooped back to back, taking all kinds of whoopings. The same scenario might be here with Macy Barber. Now, hey, I'm here for it, Macy. I'm here for it. But I see what you're doing. See, Macy, she's aware of her own inadequacies. That's why she's calling out Grasso only. Oh, I only want to fight Grasso. I'm only willing to fight Grasso. And if I can't fight Grasso, just give me a title shot. No. That's that same duck mentality, Macy. Stop with that. If you're going to say that you'll fight anybody, stick with that. Don't go calling out no title shot if you can't fight how you going to say that in the same interview, in the same sentence? If I can't get Grasso, then give me my title shot. No, girl, goofy. Just whoever. Just mention their name. If I can't get Grasso, give me Manon Fiore. We can, if you ask me, as fans, we can demand that you do stuff like that. You call out Grasso. If I can't get Grasso, give me Manon Fiore, the #1 ranked fighter. Why don't you say that? Why don't you have that as a second option if you can't fight Alexa Grasso? See what it is? If she beats Grasso, she want to go straight to a title shot. She don't want no smoke with Manon. She don't want no problems with Manon Fiore. And there's a lot of silence when it comes to Manon Fiore. Have y'all noticed that? There ain't that many girls. Ain't no girls, period. Don't nobody call out Manon. There's a lot of, if you being honest, a lot of girls in that division scared of Manon. Yeah, I said it. There are girls in that division who are scared of Manon. Y'all better get over that. Because the fans will see it and they will call it out. I don't see many fighters moving up who are good enough to move up and get a title shot. I'm keeping an eye on fighters like Gabriela Fernandez. I don't believe she's going to ever get a title shot. Remember, she lost to Jasmine Jasudavicius. I believe she also lost to Teresa Bleda. JJ Aldrich, no. Eduardo Mora, probably not. Wayne Kong, definitely not. Wrestling, grappling, takedown defense, far too underdeveloped for Wayne Kong. Casey O'Neill, what is she doing in the rankings at all anyways? Miranda Maverick, of course, no. I don't think she's going to move up in the rankings. We know Silva's not. We know Tracy's not. Jasmine, no. So, realistically, Rose is like the only hope. Who, as a fighter who could realistically fight for the belt. Shevchenko's running out of potential opponents at this point. The fight actually, if Natalia Silva has to fight while Shevchenko takes a rest, Rose is probably a more attractive fight. It's a more attractive fight. And actually, it might be the UFC's way of ensuring that Silva fights for the belt. Because I think Manon is a more difficult fight for Natalia Silva. Okay, there'd be a higher chance that she does not get a title shot if Silva is forced to fight Manon Fiore. But I think that rematch between Manon, I tell you what, man, Manon gets one more stoppage. If she gets one more stoppage, that's going to be the last stoppage she needs to get her rematch. I think that will earn her a rematch if it happens. Okay? But y'all going to have to snap out of it. Stop being scared of the beast Manon Fiore. Alright? Wow, Shevchenko is a star, a legend. Make no mistake. Manon is the other big dog in that division that make that division competitive. The top fighters are tough. Grasso, Silva, Manon Fiore, let's include Aaron. I think these four, they're just a legit step up. They're a legit step up for other fighters. I think I think Grasso would be number 4 as far as competitiveness. I think Aaron, Natalia Silva, and Manon Fiore are tougher fighters. They're tougher fights than Alexa Grasso. After Grasso, Aaron Blanchfield, and Silva and Manon, I don't even know. I would have to see them fight. But it's going to be tough for any fighter. Any fighter. You know, to get a title shot when you got fighters like this guarding the gates. You know, at the front gate. And you saw it with Macy Barber. Tried to be slick. She's taking a good look at the rankings. You can tell. I'll fight Grasso. And if I can't get the Grasso fight, just give me my title shot. I don't want no issues with none of them other chicks. Come on, Macy. Right, that go for the rest of the fighters too. Because I don't think Macy's the only one who would try to do that. Right? It's time to step your game up. I'll leave it there.